Hey guys, it's Kaylee. I am back with another What Sold From Last Week video. In today's video, we are going to be going over sales that are happening right now on eBay and Poshmark. If you guys are new here, every single week I come on and I do a breakdown on my numbers just to keep track of what is working and making my sales increase, or maybe what is not working and making my sales decrease. I know we had some audio issues on the last video, so I'm going to be testing out the same mic and see what is happening. Hopefully we don't have the same audio issues, but thank you to everybody that notified me of those, and yeah, trying to figure out what's wrong with the mic. So let's dive into some of these sales. All right, you guys, so all of the sales that we're going to be talking about today happened between July 7th through the 13th. I am still catching up a little bit, but we'll be back on track here in a week or two. Total items sold was 319 for a gross item sales a little bit lower than some of the previous months, which was around $7,400. My average sale price was definitely low, $23.22, and that is because we ran another closet clear out. You can see on eBay we also ran sales, so between the two platforms we are flushing out some older items. On eBay, my average sale price was around $29, and on Poshmark was just around $19. So very, very low average sale price. Makes sense because we were running so many sales, but still glad to see that gross item sales up and holding pretty steady even in summer slowdown. Our group, Resellers Eds, in our advanced seller chat, we were actually talking the other day about when our best month was over the last couple of years, and surprisingly everybody's month was October, which I thought was really interesting, and I guess I never realized that before. So I am ramping up leading up to October, expecting that October is really going to jump. So the rest of July and all of August will be spent kind of prepping and increasing listings, doing everything we can to prepare, because once that busy season hits, it can be really hard to keep up with. So I thought I would share that tidbit with you. So I'm doing things to prepare for that, like flushing out those older sales, like you see here reflected on this sales report. So look forward to those numbers slightly changing. Despite having all of those flush out sales, I also had some really great full price sales also, which I pulled to show with you. So have a lot of new brands to show you today, as well as some bolos and some bread and butter. So let's dive into these individual sales. So this first one, I actually have a couple Johnny Was things to show you today. I think we all know that Johnny Was is obviously a bolo, but sometimes I like showing the kind of outliers within a brand that you might not be aware of, or, you know, if you're in the jeans section, to know to look for Johnny Was. So I really like showing those exception pieces, and I've got a few of those to show you today. This is a pair of Johnny Was jeans. They were pre-owned. Here is the label. We listed these for $125. They did sell for our full asking price. And it looks like they took a few months to sell. Next up, this is a designer brand, Isabelle Morant. And I think fall and winter is a great time to be on the hunt for some designer boots. They kind of, they're typically very neutral. They don't look like designer stuff. So like these to me look like they could be any brand, right? Very classic style, black suede. So I think fall and winter, definitely keep your eye out for potentially some higher quality designer leather boots. This would be an example of that. These were called the Dicker Suede Heeled Booties in a size 6. We actually got these in wholesale. They did have a little bit of wear, listed them for $125. They sold for our full asking price, and it looks like they took a little over a month to sell. Next up, we have a Ralph Lauren blazer. I actually saw a big uptick in blazers this week. So this is your cue to start listing your blazers if you have any in storage, because all of them started to sell for me. I have been holding on to this one for quite some time. I think I originally listed it a little too high. This is a Ralph Lauren men's blazer, which I have some really great luck with. This is also a houndstooth. We definitely could have done probably better if we would have put that in our title. Hindsight's 2020. This was also new with tags, and it was called the Executive Fit. I think we originally listed this around 150. It ended up selling on this particular week, a week or two ago, for $99 on an offer. Still a great return on investment, and I do love selling Ralph Lauren men's blazers. I do know that they are sometimes a longer tail item like this one, and they do have to be priced right to move quickly. But even with waiting those several months, I'm still happy with a $99 sale, and I will show you some more blazer sales. There was a lot of them. I only pulled a few to show you today. Here is a vintage piece that sold. I've been loving selling vintage lately. This is definitely a bolo. It is Gunny Sax. And this is, I would say, kind of like an outlier piece, just because it is almost all black. So those prairie dresses you're looking for, some of them are some more muted colors, but they can still do well. So definitely keep your eye out for Gunny Sax pieces. We have had this for a little bit of time, since November. I originally listed it, I think, for around $125, priced a little bit lower because it was, again, an outlier. It ended up selling on an offer for $93, which I thought was fantastic. And like I said, did take several months to sell. This is also another one I've been sitting on since November, but since the season rolled around, I can see why it is now selling. And I honestly probably could have gone back on some of these pieces and raised the prices again, but I'm just not in the habit of doing that yet. I've got a seasonality plan that I'm working on for myself that I am about to share with our Resellers Edge group and start following myself to a T, which is what I do every single month so that I can stay on top and ahead of seasons. One of those things is going to be going back once the season rolls around again and possibly relisting, repricing, refreshing listings that I know have sat but might still do well in this upcoming season. This would definitely be an example of a piece I should have done that with. So this is a Ralph Lauren women's very western, southwestern sweater and a more substantial piece. And it's new with tags. So you can see it retails for $225. Definitely keep your eye out for anything super, anything screaming Western, Southwestern with Ralph Lauren. Aztec, equestrian, all of those things can perform very well. So this was a beautiful wrap cardigan. I originally listed this around $125 as well. It ended up selling on an offer for $78, which I went ahead and accepted because, like I said, I have been sitting on it. The other choice was to decline the offer and then relist it for higher. I don't really like doing that when I've got $78 right now. So I went ahead and accepted that offer. Still a great return on investment. Here is a very retro looking dress. We've been selling a lot of interesting Disney pieces. So there's definitely money that can be made in Disney. They tend to be really specific, either vintage or very specific limited edition pieces. This is a Disney Parks All-American girl dress. And this we listed for $99. It sold on an offer to watcher for $84. And this one did take a few months to sell as well, but honestly, vintage stuff, which I don't think this is actually vintage. I don't think it's that old. But vintage pieces or really niche pieces like this, you expect that they are going to take a little while to sell. So even with it selling within a few months, I think is a pretty quick flip for a piece like this. Next up, this is a brand you're going to want to keep your eye out for, especially for fall and winter. It is All Raven, spelled very strange. So, keep your eye out. FJ All Raven. And they make all kinds of stuff. This would be one of those pieces like if I didn't know, I wouldn't be on the hunt for it. It's just a pretty plain pair of leggings. This is their logo as well, so keep your eye out for that. These leggings originally we listed, I think, around $85. They ended up selling for a dropped price of $63, which for pre-owned leggings is amazing. But definitely pretty much anything in this brand. There are a few things that don't sell for as much, but they still have a really great sell-through rate. If you can find jackets or coats in this brand, big bolo. Here is a vintage sale. This is the brand Rampage, which is not in everything, but typically a bolo right now because very like 90s Y2K inspired. This is a formal dress. This is embodying lots of different aesthetics that are trending right now. Y2K being one of them, fairy being one of them. I could go on and on, but very good piece. If you want to know what people are looking for, this is it. I've got a couple of other examples today to show you, but this is a very big bolo and people are looking for vintage Rampage. So this we listed for $75 and it only took a couple of months to sell. It sold for our full asking price, and I'm pretty sure like prom and stuff is over, so somebody must be just getting this for an event, but people are still buying formal stuff if you've got the right pieces, and people are definitely looking for those vintage unique pieces versus going out and buying something formal. Next up, this is another one I've been sitting on for a little bit, but it was a fun sale, so I thought I would share it. This is a vintage Star Trek single stitch t-shirt. It was dated 1993. Very cool. Unfortunately, it did have, some holes in different places. I originally listed this at $75 or best offer. I since dropped the price because it had been sitting a while, and it ended up selling for my full drop price of around $55, which is still great for a pre-owned t-shirt, but I do like showing the vintage t-shirt sales every now and then because I think a lot of people pass on them. I come across, I don't know how many vintage t-shirts, even ones dated, single stitch all the time, and I leave 99% of them behind. They really have to have a good graphic and a good subject matter, which this one was. Here is another blazer. This is the brand Bonobos. Maybe we should do a blazers deep dive. The last deep dive I said I was going to do, I feel like I waited too long for. It was the women's golf deep dive, and now I did do some research into it, but I was like, man, I just don't think there's enough here that I can confidently say that these are bolos and women's golf anymore because they're just not 100% sell-through rate. So unfortunately, I think that brand deep dive kind of died until maybe next year, but blazers, however, are just upcoming in the season, so maybe we'll do a blazers deep dive for both men and women. This is definitely one you want to look out for in men's. It is Bonobos, and with blazers they sometimes also have, I guess I'll call them collaborations with different materials, so you might see some different tags in it, and they all do make a difference on your pricing. This one is a Bonobos Vitali Barbarous Canonico wool blazer. I think it's a specific kind of wool. I listed this for $65. It did sell for our full asking price, and bonobos can be very pricey in blazers, but I did look up this particular one and that was about the going rate. This is a Bolo brand. It is called Jen's Pirate Booty. If you ever see it, I have never found a piece that didn't do very well. It's very bohemian, obviously pirate inspired. This one did have a few flaws on it. With the flaws, we listed it for $50. It sold for our full asking price, and it took a few months to sell. We've also sold pieces closer to $100, so it really depends on what you have and the condition, but generally speaking, very good brand to be on the lookout for. You guys might recognize these Nikes from a haul video. These were the ones that somebody wanted to take out of my cart while we were at checkout, and they were very upset they did not get them. I asked to see these from the behind the counter. They had them listed for $14. I wanted to say 12, but it looks like it was 14. And any kind of Nike men's or women's that has like a big chunky heel, really interesting shape, or maybe even a bright multicolor print, I am usually Google lensing and looking up. More often than not, it usually ends up being a bolo. So these are the women's Air Zoom Super Reps. These did not have a 100% sell-through rate when I looked them up. However, I did take a risk on them and priced mine a little bit lower at $60. They sold on an offer to watcher for $51, so 14 into 51, and they did take a few months to sell. Another pair of shoes. These are GH Bass & Co. Weegens. I used to come across these all the time, not so much anymore. I feel like these, I haven't looked in a while. I don't think they have a 100% sell-through rate, but if you wait for the right buyer, there are a lot of people looking for these. We got these at the bins, it looks like. We listed for $45. There were a couple of scuffs, but otherwise were in really great condition. They did sell for full asking price, and they actually only took 3 days to sell, so maybe keep your eye out for those Weegens. This is another kind of Y2K find. This is an Abercrombie & Fitch women's fur hooded hoodie. Pretty much any Abercrombie & Fitch with the spell out on a hoodie, men's or women's, is going to perform well right now. It's just a very trendy brand because of the Y2K movement. This we listed at $45. It sold on an offer to watcher for $38. And it looks like it took a couple of months to sell. All right, this is going to be something you are definitely want to keep your eye out for, and pretty much anything. It is 100% cashmere pieces, and look in things other than just sweater tops. I can't tell you how many times I find cashmere pants, cashmere hoodies, cashmere robes, all kinds of stuff in other sections besides just the top sweaters category, and it all sells. This is a Yoni Fugal cashmere skirt. I think this is the first time we have sold a cashmere skirt. I listed this for $50. It sold for our full asking price. And this one looks like it took a couple of months to sell. Next up, this is another Johnny Was piece. This is also kind of an outlier. This is a robe. I say all the time, check the intimate sleepwear section because you don't know what you might be passing up. So this is a Johnny Was robe in a size large. It was missing its sash or its belt. So for that reason, we did drop the price. Otherwise, I think it would have sold for a lot more. It ended up selling on an offer for $40, which I thought was great based on the condition, the stuff it was missing. But I thought that was one worth showing. Again, just outliers and categories you might want to look for. And here is another Johnny Was piece. This one is more traditional because it is a top, but I just wanted to show you the darker color scheme. I think a lot of the times we're looking for the bright multicolor, like pretty obvious Johnny Was pieces. This one is not so obvious with the darker colors. So, just be aware that they put out those pieces. Here is a darker Johnny Was tag. So this embroidered floral top did sit for a little bit, had a spot on it. Plus, again, I think it is an outlier, so it doesn't sell for as fast. It ended up selling for around $44, and this did take several months to sell. All right, here's another example of a very Y2K fairy inspired dress. This is by the brand Diane Gilman. Not one I would probably memorize. This is more of a factor stacking piece. It is plus size. It's 100% silk. The colors on this were so vibrant and beautiful. There were a few light spots on this. Otherwise, I probably would have listed this much, much higher because it is just very on trend with the fairy core Y2K. I always say, if Phoebe Buffay would wear it from Friends, you probably want to pick it up. So I don't know how long that trend's going to go on because we are moving into some colder weather. So I'm not sure how the fairy trend's going to translate into colder weather items. But I do know right now this aesthetic in dresses is selling so well for us. We listed this for $45. It sold on an offer to watcher for $38. And this only took a couple of months to sell. This is another category I definitely look for in fall and winter. It is a specific kind of sweater. We call it like a tennis sweater, a varsity sweater, characterized by the striping here. Also, if you ever have a crest on a Ralph Lauren piece, definitely going to add value. You can see we included all those keywords here. And I listed this for $40. It was a women's tennis sweater, cable knit. And it did sell for full asking price. This one only took a few days to sell, which I think is fantastic. This is, you know, if a sweater in the middle of summer is selling that quickly, that shows you how on trend the piece is. So definitely factors to hunt for. Here is another one. This is, we called it a varsity cardigan. It is by St. John Sport. You can see that striping again. This one actually looks like it had a crest on it too, but we forgot to put that in there. Very preppy, tennis core inspired. This ended up selling for a dropped price of $40, and it did take several months to sell. I feel like we probably should have put tennis in the title to sell it more quickly, but still a great return on investment. This is definitely a category I'm still looking for. It is athletic brands in dresses. Very trendy still. This is Beyond Yoga, which is pretty high retailing. You can see this dress retailed for $100. This was the Space Dye Move It mini dress, and I was lucky enough to find it new with tags. We listed this for $45. It sold on an offer to Watcher for $38. And this one only took about a week to sell. Next up, this is more of a bread and butter find. It did have quite a few flaws on it, but we've talked about it before, the interesting exaggerated legs. This is definitely one of those like balloon barrel leg pants. This was put out by Pilcrow, and this is an Anthropology brand, smaller size in a size 26, and like I said, had multiple spots. Otherwise we would have listed it higher, but definitely this leg shape you want to keep your eye out for. Any exaggerated wide leg or the balloon or barrel style leg, be on the hunt for in just about any brand. We listed this for $30. It sold pretty quickly even with the flaws on an offer for $25. Next up, this is a handbags brand you definitely want to keep your eye out for. It is Hobo International. Their stuff is very neutral but high quality leathers. And if you don't know what you're looking for, it might be something you pass on just because they are a little bit more plain. And their branding is not super obvious either. You can see it says Hobo right here. This is a kind of like a wallet clutch kind of thing. Very high quality. Like I said, the only reason I usually notice it is just because I can tell it's high quality leather. It's not because of obvious branding. We listed this one for $40 pre-owned for a little like wallet clutch, which is pretty good. And it sold for our full asking price. This only took about 3 weeks to sell. Next up, I got to show Lulu Len shorts again because, you know, they're still selling very well. They're like one of the only things in the women's shorts section that do well, so I thought I would mention it. These were called the Track That shorts. We listed them for $40. They did sell for our full asking price, and they only took 2 days to sell. Next up, this is a new-ish brand to me. This one took several months to sell, but it was a good flip. I can't remember if I showed this in a haul or not, but the brand is Erda. I just looked at it because it looked like a very artsy, interesting handbag. And it turns out it actually has a pretty decent following for it. It's called Erda Leather. And they make a lot of stuff out of deer skin, which I thought was interesting. Yeah, they made quite a few pieces. I saw a lot of them going for $35, $40, sometimes $50, depending on the piece. Let me show you this little logo right here. Almost looks like a handmade bag. This one I originally listed around $45. I have since dropped the price and it ended up selling for $36. I picked it up for $5. Kind of more of a bread and butter. This is Peter Malar. This is their line Summer Comfort, which does particularly well. Plus it was a larger size, also a great factor in Peter Malar. Once you know what factors in certain brands add a lot of value, that's where factor stacking can really play a part in brands, you know, a good brand that you wouldn't think you would have to factor stack in, that's where you can really stack the prices and, you know, be able to list things correctly price-wise when you know those factors within brands that do well. So this was definitely one of those pieces. We listed these for $40. It sold on an offer to watcher for $34, and it took a couple of months to sell. This was an interesting sale. This is Hot Topic. This very, you can see all the keywords we used here. This like twofer look with the sleeves underneath of a short sleeve. That's a very Y2K aesthetic factor. And then we included Cybergoth and Y2K. We could have also added Skater if we would have had room. Very trendy piece in the men's department. We don't show a lot of men's style-based pickups, but this was definitely one of them. We listed this for $28. It sold for our full asking price. And let's see here. This one took a couple of months to sell. Another pair of Lulu Len shorts. These were called the Hottie Hot high-rise running shorts, listed for $35. They sold for full asking price, and they only took 6 days to sell. I'm telling you, the women's running shorts, style will impact your price, but generally speaking, pre-owned Lululemon women's shorts go for me anywhere from $30 to $40 and flip within days. This is a JCrew men's piece. I still love picking up the JCrew men's linen items. This is a slim fit Irish linen JCrew men's button-up shirt. We've sold a lot of these this summer. Listed this one for $35. It did sell for our full asking price, and it took about a month and a half to sell. All right, this next one we picked up, and this is not a brand I would memorize in season. I don't know how to pronounce it, but strictly got this because it was very cottagecore. It was just screaming the cottagecore trend to me and looked like something everybody's looking for right now. So I thought we would test it out and list it for a higher price just to see if that would, the aesthetic would pull the sale through regardless of this not being a brand I would normally pick up. So we added some keywords: dainty, cottagecore, eyelet top, white, flutter, cap sleeve, all the things. Listed this for $35, which is quite a bit for this brand. It did sell for our full asking price, and surprisingly only took about a week to sell. So I was really shocked with that. This is definitely a piece to be on the hunt for in any brand, making sure to use all your right keywords. Here is another aesthetic style-based pickup. This is Abercrombie and Fitch. Abercrombie and Fitch Y2K Henley tops, or Y2K tank tops in general, Y2K tops, just period. And Abercrombie and Fitch perform very, very well. I was lucky enough to find this one new with tags. I listed this for $35. It did sell for our full asking price, and it only took 2 days to sell. If you guys find the baby doll Henley tops with the long sleeves, those can go close to like $100. So definitely keep your eye out for Abercrombie Y2K pieces. All right, finishing up with some eBay stuff before we dive into Poshmark. These last few pieces are all bread and butter ones that I get because they are plus size. So these are brands I like picking up in plus size. Just thought I would share some of these bread and butter sales with you. This is Logo Lavish, one of their Lori Goldstein lines. This is a size 3X, very cottage core, dainty top. We listed this originally around, I think, $35. It sold on a drop price of $31. Michael Kors, this is a plus size 2X ombre top. This sold for $25. This is a Lauren Ralph Lauren 1X linen Hawaiian top, listed for $30, sold for full asking price $30. And this is a J. Jill 3X Pima cotton floral top, listed for $30, sold for full asking price $30. And lastly, Kokomo. This was a Kokomo Woman 2X stretchy Henley top, listed for $25, sold for full asking price $25. All All right, moving on to some of the Posh sales, the more full price ones. This again goes with that sleep, intimate section. Do not pass on that category. This is a newer brand to me. It's Luna Zoro in combination or in collaboration with Commodore Perry. I feel like when I looked this up, this was a hotel, but I can't remember. There is not a lot of information on this on either eBay or Poshmark, but I could tell it was high quality and the tag itself spoke. So sometimes we take risks on things like this, and I'm glad I did because it actually sold decently quickly. It was a pre-owned robe. It sold for $40 on Poshmark, and again, very, very quickly. So if you're in the robe section and you notice that like kind of plain looking tag, like you know what I mean, you can just tell when it is a higher end brand. If it feels like a high quality robe, definitely look it up. Robes are definitely a section we do not look at enough. I showed you guys a Bonobos Blazer earlier in the eBay solds. This is a Bonobos men's shirt. Anything with a bright multicolor print can perform well in Bonobos, even in their shirts. This also helped that it was a size extra large, and this one sold for $28, more of a bread and butter for us. Also bread and butter, we've been selling a lot of Cobi tops. This is a Cobi floral top. Cobi floral tops specifically, the floral print are like quick flips for us. They're $20-25. Other stuff I'm still testing the waters with, but this is a newer label Cobi floral sleeveless top. It sold for $25. And then this is an older label Cobi floral top. It sold for $20. This is an Anthropologie Farm Rio. Definitely a brand you want to keep your eye out for. They also make just their own pieces. Farm Rio does. So there's Farm Rio and then there's Farm Rio for Anthropologie. I think both of them are good. This is an extra small, very vibrant skirt. It sold for $40. This is a newer brand to me. It is called Cool, which is funny because, you know, obviously there's already a brand called that. Maybe it's Kuhle. Kule, and this appears to be a pretty high-end sweatshirt brand or sweats brand. Keep your eye out for it. This is a women's pullover terry sweatshirt in a size large. It sold very quickly on an offer for $40, and you can see it got a lot of interest very quickly. This was such a fun sale. I listed this much higher originally, but I ended up accepting an offer of $65 for this. It is a vintage Y2K micro mini. This thing was like the size of my hand bag. Really cool. Definitely, you know, screaming Britney Spears to me. 90s Y2K. It did have several issues with it, some discoloration, and then the major issue was the chain was actually busted and tied up on the sides. So because of that, I probably could have held out for a larger price, but I went ahead and accepted an offer of $65. But this is a style-based piece example you definitely want to be on the hunt for. This is a newer swimsuit brand to me. It is sold by Free People. She Made Me. You definitely want to know that brand. And this is just a crochet bikini top, pre-owned, sold for $51. Very high sell-through rate on this right now. Keep your eye out for it. This is an Everlane men's shirt. It is a size large and it is linen, so doing some factor stacking here. We don't sell a lot of Everlane anymore. Some other jeans in specific styles and sizes can do well, or maxi dresses, but in general, their tops I don't pick up a whole lot of, but when it is factor stacked with linen, it can be a really great piece. This one sold for $29. This is Peruvian Connection. This is absolutely a brand you want to keep your eye out for during fall and winter. Made in Peru. They're known for their alpaca and wool pieces. This one is an extra small women's pullover, pretty plain piece. It went for $43. Which was an offer. If you find something a little bit more multicolor or with a print, you're probably looking closer towards like $100, sometimes higher. But because this was a more plain piece, it went for $43. This has been one of my favorite comfort wear brands of shoes to find lately. It is N Aot. N-A-O-T. Here's the bottom. And yeah, they make comfort shoes. The sell-through rate does not always show 100%, but I have had some excellent luck flipping them very quickly. These are a pair of a newer style wedge-heeled sandal. They went for $50 on Posh. And last one, this was my best factor stacking piece. I listed this bad boy high, like super high. I just had a really great feeling about it. It's actually just Liz Clayborn, which is not a brand I normally get, but it is a size 4X. If you actually look up size 4X or 5X tops on eBay, you're going to see a significantly higher sell-through rate, just in general as a category, because it's a more rare to find size. So anytime you find the size in general, an indicator to me to potentially look that item up. But also when it is then paired with a trending aesthetic or a great material, it is almost always a huge bolo, and you can, you know, price it up very high. So in this case, this is a size 4X. It is very like log and look, beachy boho, minimalist, and it was linen. It was pre-owned, but all of those things combined, I knew I could ask a lot for this piece. So I think I priced it at $50. It sold extremely quickly. I want to say like the next day after getting listed for an offer of $42. So there is a lot of power in factor stacking. If you know what you're doing, you can get some really great prices. I mean, this sold for more than Lululemon shorts, right? This sold for more than or about the same as a Johnny Was top. So factor stacking, really important to know what factors add value and what factors when combined together are very powerful. All right, guys, so that was it for what sold last week. Hope that you guys enjoyed watching. If you are not already and you would like to be, don't forget to subscribe down below. If you hit the notification bell and you hit all, you'll be notified every single time I post these videos. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you all in the next one. Bye.